Good afternoon, gamers! I'm not even ready. I'm not ready for this. I'm so caught off guard. The balanced data slate is finally here. The chat isn't even on screen. Oh my god. I'm not wearing a Hellstorm t-shirt. I'll be honest, chat, I haven't even showered today. I was too busy tweeting about Liz Truss resigning and everyone making funny jokes being like, haha, the balanced data slate isn't even out and the Prime Minister has resigned. But now the data slate is here, literally minutes, not even outside of an hour of the Prime Minister of the UK resigning. It's a wild day. I had my camera over there. I was painting Dark Souls. What is going on? Welcome everyone, my name's Mikey, and we have the brand new balanced data slate. I didn't even get a warning this time. Normally I get like an hour to be like, oh yeah, by the way, it's coming in an hour. I'm like, I'm on it. But no, not this time. No fucking about. It's out. The balanced data slate is here. I have it in front of me. Warhammer 40,000 MetaWatch unpacking the latest balanced data slate. It is here. I do have it there, but I just wanted to catch up what the article says. Let us rejoin in the data slate. Rejoice in the data slate. I was literally gonna go to my local shop and buy a lettuce and be like, since everyone's like sad about the lettuce, here's a lettuce being live streamed until the balanced data slate comes out. That was going to be my meme. I was like, that's beautiful. I can just take over, ride on the meme we already have. I can't keep up. I can ride on the meme that's just about to die, and I can be like, haha, I also have a lettuce, but now we're waiting for the balanced data slate, and this is how we wait for things now. But no, they've beat me to it. They've done a video. I haven't watched this. I haven't even read. I haven't read anything. I'm literally looking with you now, okay? I'm looking at it with you now, okay? Let's have a look. This is the balanced data slate that we've already talked about. This Space Marines suck. Okay. Oh, it's the same. Oh, it's the updated article, but the Tyranids are even higher than they were. Okay, Tyranids. Amend the first bullet point of each time an attack is made against a Sanat monster unit with this adaptation, unmodified wound roll of 1 to 3 always failed, irrespective of any modifiers. And then the first bullet point, unmodified wound roll, is that what? This is reflected very targeted nature of the rules. One to the High Fleet of Iron and one to the Reaper of Obdithrax. Okay, so only monsters. Ah, there it is. So now it's sign up monsters. So this used to be used on Tyranid warriors. Thank you, chat. This is used on Tyranid warriors, so they could only be wounded on a 4+. Basically, just like everything in the entire Tyranid army. But now it's only monsters, which is crucial. Amend the first bullet point of the Reaper of Obdithrax. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, if that attack successfully wounds the target suffers 1 mortal wound in addition to any other damage the target to a maximum of 3 mortal wounds. So they've nerfed that a little bit as well. So it's still really strong. Does it still ignore? Oh, it doesn't ignore. It's the first bullet point. That's going to be the only problem, chat. I'm trying my best. I'm still out of breath. I'm still very stressed. Okay? So the first bullet point Only monsters. This is a glorious day. A glorious, glorious day. Reaper. Oh, that's the only change. So it still ignores like feeling the pain and stuff. It's just maximum 3 mortal wounds, which is not a bad change, to be honest. It's not like awful. You'd still take it. It's still the best one in there, I think. So the popularity in the competitive has been enough to drive up the whole faction's reported results. The amended synaptic control adaptation now means the very largest creatures, including hive tyrants, dragons, brats, and maleceptors, can only be wounded on an unmodified wound roll of 4 or more, while swarms or lesser creatures of non-synaptic monsters within synaptic control range will shrug off unmodified wounds of 1 or 2. Medium-sized creatures such as Tyranid warriors and Zoanthropes exist to provide synaptic control and protection to the lesser beasts, but don't benefit from any additional protection themselves. So they're like completely out of it now. So, which is crazy. Crazy. That's really good. I'm surprised that's the way it changed, but that's like changed in a really good way, I think. So 2 really nice changes for Tyranids, and this will make them a lot easier to kill. As I said, like, people are running like 21 to 27 Tyranid warrior models. Now, none of them benefit from Leviathan. So people are going to either change the build, or what's more likely to happen, look at a different hive fleet. So this is the plan. That's what they're going to be doing. And then the Reaper, I think it's still one of the best relics in the Codex. I just think it's not quite as... It's just got a little bit of a nerf. Doesn't this just make Kraken the go-to? I think it does. I think it does, yeah. So people are going to start playing Kraken now. But that has a more positive playing experience. The problem is with the Hive Fleet Leviathan, because everyone can't be wounded on 1 to 3, it creates like a negative play experience. So at least Kraken, it's more aggressive, but you have a chance to kill stuff. So that's good. That's very good. It might stop people playing warriors as well, but that's good. So when these things come out, if you continue playing and they're still really strong, then it's not done enough. And if you have to change the way your army's built, then it's like what we want to see. We want Nids might still be really strong. They still might have a super high win rate, but it's not going to be Leviathan warriors anymore, which is nice. So it can still generate. So they've still got 5 attacks. So they've only limited. I presume there's ways to get more attacks on Tyranid on Hive Tyrants, but they've only limited like 2 more wounds at max, right? Leviathan was a huge defensive boost for everything. What wasn't necessary is the dice can screw you hard. Exactly. Why are warriors bad for having transhuman, but Deathwing are fine? Because warriors come with a lot of other stuff around it, whereas Terminators are just Terminators. You know, they're a lot slower. They don't have much. They have a bit of range potential. But this was on like 30 warriors were quite cheap as well. So Harlequins. Now they hit these last time as well. So let's have a look. The protection afforded by the Mirage Launchers and Starweavers combined with that of the Blaze of Light Sadith already makes Light Sadith Harlequins especially hard to take down. So Blaze of Light. Blaze of Light. Harlequins. I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm just getting it up so I've got it all in front of me. I'll probably understand this one a lot better. Change the second bullet point. Each time of this characterization makes a normal move or advances in movement phase. That unit can't remain stationary. It does not apply if it is embarked in a transport. Is that? Oh, wait, what? What does the second paragraph say here? Even makes a normal move. Ah, okay. So it basically what they've done is they've changed it to not apply to the units inside. So this change adds an existing amendment to the Harlequins rule for previous battles. Dataslate, including an earlier change to Light Sadith Blaze of Light characterization. Makes Harlequins hard to take down. Allows them to also ignore the hit penalties for assault weapons while embarked was too potent of combination. So the only change here is that last line basically. So it's exactly the same here, but they've added this does not apply to the units embarked in a transport, which is good. Really, really good. It's summarized at the bottom of the page. Yeah, but that's boring. I'm going through it all. Here we go. Adeptus Astartes. Chat. This is it now. This is the fruit of our labor. The fruit of our loins. You know? My hot thighs, my hot throbbing thighs are ready to see the buffs to Space Marines. Again, I haven't read this. I literally saw the article, went live. Okay? I haven't read this. Here we go. As we noted, in last month. Space Marines are underperformed for unexpected reasons, not least because they're often a player's first army. Because you shit. Change Shock Tactics secondary mission in Warzone Nephilim Grand Torrent mission pack to read at the end of your turn. At the end of your turn, score 4 BP if you control one or more mark 2 that was controlled by your opponent at the start of turn, and an Adeptus starting in the range of that objective marker. Wait, that's not a buff. That's not a really good buff. That doesn't make Space Marines really broken. Fuck you! Fuck you, Games Workshop! Where's my really broken rules for Space Marines? Where's my transhuman on everything? Where's my 4 times objective secured? What, 1 measly VP? 1 VP, that's all you give me? This is bullshit. This is outrageous. Why is my entire army not dropped 10% in points? Right? Why I get 1 measly victory point on a secondary? That's all I get. Is that all I'm allowed? I'm a shit player, don't forget. Make my army easier to play. 1 VP in 1 secondary. This is outrageous. This is ridiculous. I'm offended. I'm offended. Secondary objectives are key to winning games in match play, so by rewarding a number of popular sub-factions with this boost to Shock Tactics, we expect to see the needle move on the number of reported Space Marine wins. 1 point! Necrons have 3 secondaries that score them 4 points or more a turn. We get 1 single VP on a single secondary. Ah! Ah! Anyway, I'll do it. So Space Marines still suck, and it's all Games Workshop faults. Great job, thanks. Thanks, 1 VP. Let us go. Adeptus Mechanicus. Their secondary score +5 VP. You don't have to hold the objective, just be on it. At the end of your turn, score 4 VP if you control 1 or more objective markers that are controlled by your opponent's start of the turn, and an Adeptus unit is within range of that objective marker. You don't have to hold it, just be on it. Yeah, but you have to... At the end of your turn, score 4 VP if you control 1 or more objective markers that were controlled by your opponent at the start of the turn. I'm pretty sure that's what it is now, but 3 VP. What it's done is it's stopped any allies in your army holding it. I'm pretty sure that's what it's done. I don't think it's made it much better. Shock Tactics. And then your turn, score 3 victory points if you control 1 or more objective marker that you controlled by a starting turn. No, it's not changed. It's just 1 VP. No. No, it's just 1 VP rather than 1 extra. That's the only change. It's gone from 3 VP to 4. It now takes me 4 turns to score it rather than 5. Okay. Adeptus Mechanicus. A simple change for the discipline of Machine God. All changes from the Mechanicus from the previous Dataslate have been removed. They take every nerf from Adeptus Mechanicus. They give them the stratagem that was really broken that Votan got for the entire army for free. They gave them that stratagem back. They gave the chicken's core. They got rid of all the other nerfs. And Space Marines gained a single victory point on a secondary that is arguably okay, but not great. I'm going to need a minute. I'm out. Necrons! Let's have a look at Necrons. The core keywords is not added to Necron vehicles data sheets with the character keyword. Oh my god, it gets worse. They've not even nerfed Necrons. They've just stopped the rerolls on the Silent King. That's all they've done. They've just taken the rerolls from the Silent King on himself. That is all they've changed. Oh, no. This is Mikey's Joker moment. These changes illustrate a variety of ways you can influence the metagame, ranging from tweaks to single sub-faction boosting the victory points available to all armies, making use of... No! That's not enough! It's not enough! Oh, mate, at least they haven't touched Iron Hands, right? They haven't nerfed Iron Hands. They haven't got rid of the character Dreadnought. That's the main thing. But what they haven't done is stop the Necron scoring 9 points. Sorry, like 12 points turn 1. That's what they haven't done. They still have Ancient Machineries doing action 4 points, auto-complete to the end of the turn. They also haven't touched Treasures of Aeons 5 VP just by holding 3 objectives. And they haven't touched Code of Combat. But kind of they have, because they've said the Silent King can't reroll to hit now. Does that mean we can't res Menhirs? It finally officially means you can't res Menhirs. Okay. We're not making any further changes, yada, yada, yada. Oh, they got all the... Yeah, okay. Cool, let's have a look then. Let's see if there's anything else that's changed. This is the official balance data slate. This is not like the article going over it. So I think we've already gone through the changes, but this is like the round out of all the changes. So Armor of Contempt is still a thing. Aircraft you can still only run 2. Indirect fire, but Astral Military ignore it for the time being. Bodyguard abilities all the same, and lookout, so etc. The first bullet point of gaining miracle dice, for example, can't re-roll. This is all the same so far, all the same. This hasn't changed at all. It literally looks like the same document. Adeptus Custodian still nerfed. Drakari still nerfed. Azayani, again, still nerfed. Space Marines. Am I a joke to you, Games Workshop? Am I a joke to you, Games Workshop? That's what it says. Okay. Can we do that here? Can we inspect? Can we edit them? Can we edit it that easily? No, it's a PDF. We can't. We can download it and edit it. But it just at the end it says, fuck Mikey. I gotta keep a lot of their buffs with the new codex out. Well, the codex isn't out yet. But I imagine they'll disappear. Okay, Space Marines is exactly the same. Tyrannide's getting all of these extra additional rules, look. So, when playing a match game, that's all the same. So these are the 2 that they've added at the end. So Reaper of Oblitrex, hardly changed. Hardly changed. This is almost like a non-change, right? Because the Reaper, I think it's like is it a 6 to wound? Oh, it's just wounds to target. It's just Mortal Wound Edition. So like it's reduced it by maximum 2, I think. Can you give Tyranids more attacks? Because the Reaper is Bone Sword or Monstrous Bone Sword only. A Hive Tyrant has 5 attacks. Yes, with a strap. Thought so. I mean, is it an extra D3 or something? Adrenal Surge. Yeah, Adrenal Surge can give yourself up to D3 extra attacks. So a High Tyrant can have maximum 8 attacks if they roll 6 on the D3. So that has reduced it from 2 to 5 more wounds every time it fights, which is pretty good, to be fair. So that is a decent change, especially with the additional attacks. It's because it's automatic mortal wounds. There's like no other weapon that just goes, oh yeah, you take mortal wounds and loads of damage at the same time. So they've maxed it at 3, which I think is a fine change. I don't think that's unreal. I think the relic is still the strongest relic in the codex, to be honest. Exploding Sixes. Genome Grand Strat for plus D3 and Exploding Sixes from the Warrior's Imperative. So could have 8 attacks and hit rolls of 6 explode. So you could get a maximum of 16. Okay, yeah, that's quite a big change then if you start adding up like that. You can still do mortal wounds with, yeah, with a stratagem, but this relic just did any number of mortal wounds by the sound of it. So, yeah, that's fair. Regarding cons, they did confirm the many has not been able to brought back. They never officially confirmed it in an official document. They never officially they had people say it, but they never officially confirmed that in a document. So Tau all the same. Necrons. Let's have a look what it says now. Add core to the following data sheets. And then they've changed it to all Necron vehicles with the exception of character data sheets. So they only, literally, all that does is it stops the Silent King rerolling hits in shooting and rerolling wounds in combat. Which is quite a big change for him specifically. But he doesn't really hit the faction at its core. And the core is that the secondaries are really shite. And they've already said that Space Marines, they've set a precedent saying that they can change secondaries in Warzone Nephilim, which they have done with shock tactics by making it 4 points rather than 3. So I'm surprised they haven't touched the Necron secondaries because they are like quite horrific. They are very, very good. They're very, very easy to score. So the fact that they've not touched them is really interesting. But not a great deal of changes. I mean, obviously the last one being the Harlequins. Blaze of Light being changed again. So now you can't advance and shoot with pistols in a transport because nothing affects them in the transport, which before it did. You know, you tweeted out the wrong YouTube link on your Go Live. Have I? Yes, I have. I've youtube.com Hellstorm. Are they live? No. Hellstorm call. Okay. Oops. F. Cringe. I was doing that whilst the starting soon screen was on. So, thank you, Toby. Appreciate it. If they change the bolters to add 1 AP or plus 1 strength, I think that would add some damage that's missing, or stop Primaris Plasma Dudes from blowing up, or really so many things. I think if they're going to change it, they should. The points probably need adjusting because Space Marines are still kind of overpaying for a lot of their units. I'm quite biased because I do play Space Marines, but they could reduce the points so a lot of the units aren't quite as expensive. They need a little bit more on the board. And the problem is as well is like Armor of Contempt is such a great rule for Space Marines until you play against Space Marines with Space Marines, because a lot of the Space Marine Codex is AP1 unless you're doctrined. So unless you're doctrined, like the combat doctrines are in effect, so your weapons are an additional AP. Space Marines just don't kill Space Marines. So that's the problem. That's the problem, is that they overpay. They overpay for a lot of their units, and their units have been buffed and nerfed at the same time. It's so stupid. It's so stupid because, like, you stop people having good AP against you until you play against a power armor unit. Then they're just like, oh, okay, well, now I can't kill you either because my AP is pretty shite. So maybe what they should do, if I was going to say anything, if they wanted to make a little tweak, is give them Armor of Contempt, but let them ignore Armor of Contempt at the same time, you know? If Space Marines or Power Armor ignored Armor of Contempt, we'd be in a really interesting metagame, you know? Because Space Marines will be a lot better, because then when they play against armies that reduce AP, or 90% of the armies that reduce AP, bar outside of chapter tactic, their AP actually matters. And they've got like, woo, holy shit, right? But now, I've got a las cannon, it's AP3, it becomes AP2, right? And then I'm in cover, so it's actually only AP1, so my Space Marine gets a 4-up save against a las cannon. It's mint until you are the Space Marine who's trying to kill the other Space Marine. But also, yeah, as chat is saying, like, look at Chaos Space Marines. Look what they get. They've got Toughness 9 Land Raiders. They've got las cannons that have +2 damage. They have a bunch of stratagems. All their units are very, very well costed. They have a lot of additional power units, which are all core and all synergize with the army really well. And then Space Marines have all the same units, but pay more points, but aren't Toughness 9. They don't have the plus damage, you know? And it's like weird because the Chaos Space Marines still have Armor of Contempt, which makes them really good. Even though it feels like a buff to help the army while it's shite. but they kept it, which is really weird. If power armor would ignore armor of contempt, sisters would be too strong. They'd be only really strong against other Marines. That'd be like a hard matchup. But they're already a hard matchup because they have more AP than Space Marines, and they ignore the Space Marines going back in. So I think that, like, I think if I was going to make a change, it wouldn't be give them one VP in one secondary. This is stupid. Like, Shock Tactics is a decent secondary, to be fair, because it's played, in all seriousness, Shock Tactics is a really interesting secondary. It's a really good secondary for Space Marines because it's a really good secondary for anyone, because essentially all you're doing is you're playing the meta game, right? You've got to, in most games, you've got to hold an objective, hold two, hold more, right? That's how you play the primary in 40k. Or it's hold two, hold three, but it's hold one, hold two, hold more, or hold two, hold three, hold more. But Shock Tactics is a secondary, which is take objectives from your opponent and hold it, is a good secondary because you're essentially already doing that. In the game, if you're not holding more, you've got to go and hold more. That's what you got to do. You got to kill a unit and take it, or charge and have more obsec on there. And you score at the end of the turn, so you usually get an additional 3 points just by playing the primary. That's why it's such a good secondary. Making it 4 BP is quite nice. It's nice, but do I think it's enough? No. I don't think that, like, changes the whole Space Marine metagame, so they're going to have a 50% win rate now. I think they're going to have a better time at scoring points. I'm quite happy with the change because my army is working a little bit better and other people's armies are running a little bit worse, barring Admech. But most other people's armies are slightly worse, you know, ever so slightly. But the buff is, I don't think that's enough, you know? I don't think that is enough. I think Space Marines don't have access to enough secondaries that are actually fun or useful to play. Oath of Moment is decent, but it's kind of hard to play now because it's core only to be in the center. The other one, kill units in doctrines, is really hard because you get turn 1, you get 2 points for every unit you kill, up to a maximum of 5 for killing stuff in the heavy doctrine. But we're playing a game with terrain, and you can't always kill 2 units. So you can't always kill 2 units. So that's kind of dumb. Or kill 3 units even to get the max 5. And then it's like 1 point for the other 2. And the other 2 you can kind of control. But if you miss the Tactical Doctrine 1, you can't get those points back. If you miss the Assault Doctrine 1, you've got the rest of the game to do it. But it's the Heavy. It's the fact that Heavy's worth more, but it's hard to do because you've got to kill loads of unit in the first turn. So, at least Dev Doctrine needs to extend to turn 2. I'm biased. That'd be really sick. That'd be fucking so good. But, I think that might be too much because I'm a smooth brain. Maybe that's too much. Maybe we shouldn't do that. I think points drop and have made potentially think about Space Marines ignoring Armor of Contempt. So I think they could just say Space Marines ignore Armor of Contempt. Not even like they would ignore AP modifiers or anything like that. No, just be like, just ignore Armor of Contempt specifically. So any points changes? There's no points changes here. The next point change is going to be January. But I'm surprised they've not brought a couple forward, you know? Because there's like some of the units that people are using the least, you know? Like Centurions. Maybe they should get core. Because Centurions fucking suck, but they're such a cool unit. But they suck because they don't synergize with the army. Because Space Marines were the first... They were the first... army to get this core rule, right? To get the auras that specify core. They got stratagems that specify core. They were the test bed for it. And they gave a load of units core, but they took it from a lot of units as well. So a lot of units don't synergize, such as all the tanks, such as like Centurions, for example. Reavers, I don't think... Oh, maybe Reavers are core. But still, there's a lot of units in the codex that aren't used a lot because there's no synergy. But every other army seems to have synergy. They've like nailed it. They've got it where it works really well. But Space Marines just don't have that. So they put a video out. I'll watch the video for sure. AP has run hog wild as always in 40k. They should bite the bullet and raid in general AP creep on too many units in the game and remove the Armor of Contempt. I think I think you're probably right. I think that the reason Armor of Contempt has come in, it's a bandage fix for the problem that the fact that the AP has run wild. So, our Custodians still nerfed. Custodians haven't changed. It's pretty wild though. It is pretty wild. But yeah, like as you say, like Blood Angels don't touch this secondary. They're still fine. They're still really, really strong. And that made Blood Angels really sick. Imagine if Blood Angels ignored Armor of Contempt. That made them even better against Space Marines, but nothing else. Else, just in case, because sometimes they do that. They like to add FAQs without saying anything. 12. Fuck. God damn it. They haven't even added it yet. It's officially out, but not out. They haven't even added it to the website yet. It's just on this article. Okay. Let's have a look what they got to say.
An army that...
Let's do commentary. Live commentary. React streamer. Let's go. I'm a React streamer now. I'm going to get copyright claim for this music.
Welcome to MetaWatch, Games Workshop's regular show where we take a look at the state of matched play in our games. And today we're heading back to the grimdark far future, as there's a brand new balanced data slate released for Warhammer 40,000 today. I'm joined by Stu Black from the studio, who's here to take us through the balanced data slate, what it means for Warhammer 40,000, and the state of...
Well, I will say, I'm glad that they finally moved the microphone, because that last time, on the other MetaWatch, they had, like, the microphone and the pop filter like this. And it's like... Yes, Nick. Yes, Nick. I think changing Space Marine, something about rock, paper, scissors. You know, it's great. It's having a great time, you know. And we need to update. Yeah, it was just awful. So let's go.
Match play right now. Stu, how you doing, man? You all right? You good?
Yeah, very good. Thanks, Nick.
Really good to have you here again.
Yeah,
so yeah, we've got a brand new balanced data slate. Exciting. For those who might not know, what is a balanced data slate?
Right. Is this on YouTube? Because I have a silly brain where I can't watch anything in normal speed. It is on YouTube. We'll watch it there. I can watch it faster then. Is that okay with everyone at home? You can watch it faster? Is this off-putting? If I
Welcome to MetaWatch, Games Workshop.
is this off-putting? I play at that speed.
Matched play in our games, and today we're heading.
Don't you think that's just way better? He talks almost as fast as I do.
Released for Warhammer 40,000 today. I'm joined by Stu Black from the studio, who's here to take us through the balance data slate, what it means for Warhammer 40,000, and the state of match play.
Don't you think they talk really slowly otherwise?
Yeah,
or is that just me?
Really glad to have you here again. So we've got a brand new balance data slate. Exciting. For those who might not know, what is a balance data slate, and how long have you guys been making them?
That's a really good question. So a balanced data slate is one of the tools that we use to help try and curate, particularly the match play.
I don't need to know what a balanced data slate is.
One of the main metrics we track is the win rate of a particular faction, me in the studio recently, 60. And what we're trying to target is to get every faction in between 45 and 55%. That's like it's like the Goldilocks.
Run it at 2 times speed. Easy, mate.
We talked about
you guys keep up.
As well. And so Tyranids are one of the factions that sticks out top of that, and that's driven by a whole series of interactions within their book. So there's a couple of things that particularly make Tyranids work well. There's a bunch of really good synergies. So in this balance data slate, we specifically looked at two things really. One of them is one of the sub-factions. So
do you guys understand that, or is that just me? Otherwise, everyone just talks way too slow.
the Leviathan sub-faction is very popular. It's got a great ability that it gives loads of the units in that sub-faction. And one of the changes we've made to that is to make it mainly only affect monsters.
It's like transhuman physiology for Space Marines, isn't it? Where you can only be wounded on a 4, 5, or a 6.
Yeah.
And it used to apply to all Silence creatures, but now only applies to monsters.
Yeah.
So basically, the warriors have lost it. Essentially.
Yeah, essentially that's right. So really,
essentially, fuck warriors. That's what I'm saying. You know what, warriors? We've sold enough of this dead kit. Okay, we've sold enough of this dead kit. Fuck them off. Buy more of our monsters. We made them more recently. We haven't quite made the money back yet.
Essentially, it's Tyranid warriors no longer get that benefit. And Tyranid warriors are quite a key unit in most Tyranid builds. They're really tough, super tough if they're Leviathan. They're quite killy. They're really useful in loads of ways. So by doing kind of like a precision kind of poke at that particular interaction, we're just trying to take the edge off of those a little bit. But what we don't want to do is affect Tyranid warriors everywhere.
Yep.
So this is a good example of us trying to do like a precision strike on a particular sub-faction that's driving an overall faction performance. And it's probably worth talking a little bit about that, actually. So
it's quite an interesting point. I'm going to say exactly what he's going to say now. Okay. The Tyranid Warrior datasheet has got a lot of utility, but it's only really being used because of Leviathan, because they're very easy to kill then. They're very easy to kill otherwise. So the fact that they're no longer good in Leviathan is probably going to see a lot of play lost in Leviathan, but for people who aren't playing competitively, it won't affect them too much. Which is kind of like the nice thing, what they've done. It's like warriors are still decent, but they're only really good because you can't wound them very well. You know, they still kill shit. They still kill shit, but the problem is things weren't killing them back, but now things will kill them back, and that's kind of like the big change.
When we look at balance, mostly what we're looking at is faction win rates.
How do people watch? How do people watch videos slower than this? I don't know. How do you watch me live? I'm slower than this, but I talk really fast.
Every army should, at a faction level, give you a good, fair opportunity to win your games, assuming that you're roughly equal to the skill of your opponent.
Run Iron Hands with Stalwart and Ward if you want army-wide transhuman 1 to 2 wound auto fail 5+ versus more wounds. Yeah, but Terry, that's shit because it's 1 to 2. Not a great deal wounds a Space Marine on 1 or 2. It always wounds it on a 3. It always wounds it on a 3.
If you're playing someone better than you, they're probably going to be you. Like that's just that.
Like saying, yeah, Stalwart is exactly the same as playing Tyranid Warriors because they get that, they get Leviathan, but they can't be wounded on better than a 4. So you should be basically take a worse version of that because you want it. Like, no, it's just shit version.
That's the point of the game, right?
Yeah.
So what we try and do is focus on that faction level, so that whatever kind of army you fell in love with, you went into a store, you saw those miniatures and thought those guys are cool, I'm collecting those. That should be a valid choice for you. Within the codex, though, there's loads of different sub-factions, right? So for Tyranids, you've got different hive fleets. For Orcs, you've got different clans. And it is important that all of those are fun. And we'd love all of those to be equally balanced. I think we talked a little bit on the last show. We've got about between 1,000 and 1,200 data sheets, something like that, 24 different factions. When you start looking at it at a sub-faction level, you've got about 150 sub-factions. So trying to balance all 150 of those is...
150 sub-factions? 150? I suppose if you said there was like 25... How many factions is it? That's the problem. If there's 6 in each one. 150 doesn't sound right, but then I did the maths very quickly, and it's probably at least 120, which is pretty wild. So, joining in halfway through. Give me the too long didn't read. Admech have lost all their nerfs, so they're just a codex now, rather than a nerf. Silent King can't reroll hits and wounds, but that's it. Space Marines got a 1 additional VP. Tyranid Warriors got nerfed, and so did the Relic, but it's not that bad anyway. And then Harlequins hardly touched as well. I wonder if that includes the custom faction combinations. Oh, that if you start adding the custom faction combinations, that's a lot. That's probably more than 150, actually. Because the Space Marines have like access to like 15, right? 15 different ones to choose 2 from. So that's some power maths that someone with a bigger brain than me could very much easily work out. So that would be a lot. So yes, maybe there is more than 150 sub-factions. But not including custom factions. It's like 6 per faction, right? They should just give Marines 10 plus 10 VP at the start of the game. They give everybody plus 10 VP at the start of the game for being painted.
Goal. That's certainly on a 10, but that's a really big thing for us to look at.
You never want it to be sort of an auto take. You look at a book and go, I'm obviously taking Death Skulls or
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to avoid auto takes, and actually probably more important, you want to avoid things that are just never takes. So you don't want to put players in a place where they've collected and painted an army, and then they think, I've chosen badly. Like, I wish I'd fallen in love with something else.
It's just like done that
do you know what I mean? Because our hobby is such a tactile hobby, and it's such an investment in kind of time and like emotion and energy into creating that army that you don't want to feel like, oh well, I had no choice. Like I just made a mistake at the start when I picked that thing, and now my course is set. So really, our focus is on that faction win rate. We do look at the sub-faction stuff, and we can talk a little bit about that later in the show. But this Leviathan interaction is a good example of where really that sub-faction is starting to push up the overall faction rate. So most of the things in the balance data slate, we tend to look at a thing that affects either the whole game. So you'll see some things in the balance data slate, like we made some changes to flyers not that long ago, to indirect fire weapons.
And they're like a
year
year
ago. They've affected everybody. So it's like a global change. Then we have changes at the faction
Space Replay should simply learn to play the game better, said Stuart Black.
level. So some of the ones we'll talk about later today are good examples where we've looked at a particular faction. Orcs is a good example in the data slate. So we made a change to how WAR worked, and that affects all orcs, doesn't matter what sub-faction you've chosen. Or we might have an interaction where we're looking at a particular sub-faction, like in the case of Leviathan. Or sometimes it's at the unit level, where we'll change a keyword or we'll change a particular rule on a particular data sheet, because it's that unit that is either causing a problem or potentially helping and making that army kind of underperform.
I will say that I do like these videos because it lets you get like a little bit of an insight about like what they're thinking when they're doing it. It feels very it's very, very corporate and very unrelatable video. But it's nice to kind of like get that little bit of insight where they're like, we want to nerf warriors, but they're only really good with Leviathan, so we're just going to nerf Leviathan warriors. That's why we did it. Like that's quite wild. Like it's quite funny to like hear them say it and be like, you know what, this is kind of dumb, but only in this particular way, which is quite interesting.
So we've got like those 4 levels almost that we interact with.
I guess it's all about intention of the rules writers as well. Like you never intended something to be maybe better than everything else, or you never intended something to be worse than everything else. You want to get back where you think it should be.
Yeah, and that changes over time as well. I think one of the things we chatted about last time is that because the game's always changing, so you're playing different missions. We're on our 4th set of missions for this edition of 40k. So you're trying to do.
Are we on our 4th set of missions? Haven't we had the same missions? Or same primary missions for 3 books in a row? And all the changes to secondaries and the tertiaries? Can you call it a new mission if you simply change the wording ever so slightly? You can give it another name. Doesn't mean it's a different mission.
Do different things than you
like
were.
My mum calls me a prick. Doesn't mean I've changed. I'm just me.
2 years ago. There's different armies in play. So as more different codexes come out, different armies get different rules that interact in different ways. So there's different puzzles for people to solve around the armies that they might face. So there's quite a few things that mean that an army that was performing in a certain way...
Yeah, missions have barely changed. The secondaries have hardly changed.
Might actually be behaving.
It's just the way you select them has changed, which is not different.
We haven't changed that army, we've just changed the environment.
6 months ago, killing stuff was great. Now it's all about objective play.
Yeah.
So Steve, you made a change to Leviathan to help.
No, that's not right though, is it, Nick? It's always been about objective play. Not being funny. Sorry, but...
A year ago, might actually... be behaving quite differently now, even though we haven't changed that army, we've just changed the environment.
6 months ago, killing stuff was great. Now,
was killing stuff great 6 months ago? Was it great? I don't think it was. I think it was exactly the same it is now. There's some random secondaries that are really good at killing stuff, which we still have, and objectives have always been almost half of the points available. Actually half, because there's 90 points available, not 100 really. That's kind of dumb. That's a dumb line, but that's okay.
I was all about objective play.
Yeah.
So actually, you've made a change to Leviathan to help out what you're talking about there, but you've also changed one of the relics, the Reaper of Obliterax. Now, you've made that so that it could have done multiple mortal wounds, but you've capped it at 3. Why have you made that change?
Yeah, so it's a quality of life thing, really. So it's essentially a magical bone sword that the Hive Tyrants can use, and when they do damage, they also do additional mortal wounds. And we were just finding it was putting out too much damage output. The Hive Tyrant itself is clearly like a really powerful monster, particularly when it's a flying one, so it's super mobile, it's really tough, it's hard to kill, and it's really killy. And we were just...
It will still wreck stuff. We're all here, SM Battle Reports. Hey, Zob's up, how are you? Mikey just blanking us. I'm done no walling you, mate. If you're grey name, we don't listen to grey names in chat. Every time, the past 2 weeks, every time I've read something from a grey name, it's just been wild. YouTuber or no YouTuber, I'm like indiscriminate, you know? I just discriminate against people with grey names. Mikey's loins are flaccid now. Hey, Pad, how are you doing, buddy? Thanks for tuning in. How are you doing? Well,
seeing that relic was picked an awful lot over some of the others, so we've just kind of taken the edge off it.
But I've been cooked. I've been cooked by so many people with grey names. I just gloss over it every time I read something. It's just something dumb. You always read our posts. No, don't lie to people. No time for greys. That's what I mean. The grey blobs. The grey blobs from Fairly Odd Parents. Remember that? You might have not had that down under. The Odd Parents. Grey. Is there an image? Do you remember this episode? Anyone? Anyone remember this one? Where they're all grey. Oh, I just want to open. Please just. I don't want to be on Tumblr or whatever this is. Remember this? Me reading chat to grey names.
3 mortal wounds. Still a great pick, but it's maybe a little bit less of an auto take.
It was one of those auto takes you talked about before. Now
sure.
You've got a bit of a choice between the other relics in the list as well. That's fair enough.
Grey takes some petty model collectors. Yeah, so we've got grey, which is the pile of shame because you're not green. We've got blue, which is like golden demon, and we've got grey, which is battle ready with 1 or 2 highlights.
And it's worth saying with the Tyranids, like, so we've made a series of interventions in previous balanced data slates, and it feels like we're kind of getting to a place where we don't want to go too far. So we don't want to make big sweeping changes to the Tyranids at this stage. As we spoke about earlier, we have some other balance tools as well. So in January there'll be a new field manual, so we'll review all of the points for every model in 40k, which is a fun job. But at this stage we think just making some quite subtle changes to Tyranids should just tone them down enough, and also give some of those other sub-factions within the Tyranid Codex like a little bit of breathing space.
Quite interesting, because I would have thought that, like, if you've got a problematic army, not nerf it out of existence, but be quite heavy-handed and then retract those with nerfs later. Like, look at Admech. Like, Admech got such a heavy-handed nerf, but then the missions changed around them. There's a lot of variables. But they've slowly been reducing those nerfs and slowly letting their win rate climb. Do you think it's better, chat? I'm pitching this question to you. Do you think it's better to have either soft, light nerfs and slowly control it over a period of months, or harsh changes that are then revoked? Let's do a poll. We love a poll. Which? Light, soft changes, or harsh, then slowly remove? Answer now in chat. Answer now. Because the problem is, like, the argument for both sides is that if you heavy nerf an army, you can alienate people and they will have a collection that is no longer really usable. I like it hard, Daddy. Me too. The problem is if you do a really heavy nerf straight away, is that you alienate people. You alienate people's spending because they'll buy an army and then it'll get nerfed really hard and it'll be unplayable and people will be really sad. And that army will not get played. But then, on the other hand, you can have... and the example of that is, like, for example, you could say Votan maybe. You could say Admech. I don't know. But the other hand, you have, like, light nerfs, like what they've been doing to Tyranids and Harlequins, where they've kind of, like, been nerfing them a little bit. And the problem is with that is if they don't do enough, that army that's dominating continues to dominate. Dominate, Daddy. You know, like, but what they have is they have this data to say, okay, we haven't quite done enough. We'll do another little nerf. We'll target the things that are being used a lot and nerf it again. So that's like, it's like interesting because if you nerf it too hard, you won't have that data to say that they're really shit now because people will stop playing them. But then if you do it too light, the same army dominates for a long time. So there's kind of, I don't know if there's a right way to do it. Maybe they could just nerf it the right way the first time, but obviously that's not always possible. I've always preferred it hard. Hell yeah. I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming with a couple of them. Light changes never work. I mean, they're getting there, right? They're getting there. But it's just like, it feels like, for example, now, I don't think they've done enough to Necrons to make them a better player experience. I think they should have nerfed the secondaries as well. So that's like a thing that I think they've missed. But if they had a heavy-handed approach, they could have probably got that. But like Tyranids, I think they've nerfed them a couple of times now. But like, do you think they've gone far enough? And they've been very good ever since they came out, even with the nerfs when they came out in like what, March, so like 5-6 months. They've been really good ever since, even with the nerfs that they've been piling on them. Just think about how bad they were when they first came out, and now they've been nerfed again. You know. Hard nerfs lead to what happened to Admech. Yeah, Admech was a really weird one because they changed the secondary mission around them just after they got super nerfed. Obviously, Admech won the LGT this time last year. Then in January, by the time January rolled around, they got nerfed, and then the missions changed. So it's interesting. A lot of people, 60% of people said light soft changes. Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's interesting to think about, though. In my opinion, I'm going to read a grey name, and good luck to me. In my opinion, it's not Mountain Nerf, it's done, but the frequency of reviewing is key. Yeah, but they've left it 4 months. They're doing it every 3 months. They can't review nerfs any faster. That would be ridiculous, I think. The average Joe is already pissed off about balanced data slate, and that's what we all asked for. Imagine if we did it every other month, every month. I don't know. Crazy.
Fair play, man. So up next, we've got the Harlequins. Now, they've been winning tournaments all over the place. That for the build of all the vehicles flying all over the place. You've made a bit of a change to the Blaze of Light characterization. What have you changed, and how do you expect that's going to change the meta?
Yeah, again, another example of quite a subtle change. So the Blaze of Light Sailor effectively means that you can count as being stationary even if you've moved, which interacts quite a lot with different weapon abilities, things like assault weapons, heavy weapons, or just actually the ability to actually shoot if you've advanced. So what you have is you have a fast-moving army anyway, so the Harlequins are super fast. They're nearly always mounted up in their transports. And what the rule currently enables them to do is fly those transports right across the board to wherever they need to get to, and then attack things with their missile weapons and put quite a lot of damage out. And what this does is just tone that down a little bit because it's made it so it doesn't count if you're in a transport. So you're still super fast.
I was just watching the video.
You can't count as stationary. So if you advance with that transport, you can't fire some of the weapons, or you might actually have to get out of your transport.
Heaven forbid.
And that's a big deal for Harlequins. Harlequins don't do very well in the open. They're full of tricks. They're quite hard to pin down. But actually, if you can catch one of them, they're pretty squishy.
Yeah, troops are shit, but the transports we made busted. The transports are horrific to play against. The troops are bad, but the transports, if you do shoot them, they are pointless. You actually want to charge the transports, but shoot the troops inside. Whereas when you charge the transports, the troops charge you, which is where they want you to be.
So what this enables us to do again is just kind of like trim the edges off of that Harlequin performance.
That's a really good change. I like that a lot. It's to make Harlequin players maybe think exactly about what they put in the transports a bit more.
Yeah, and again, and open up some of the other sub-factions. So
I mean, it only really nerfs fusion pistols, but like being able to advance and shoot fusion pistols at no penalty from a transport that's already moving like 18 inches or something dumb is pretty good. It is a nice change. And I think Stu Black looks like Ian Beale there, doesn't he? Tell me, not the same look. Tell me this isn't the same look. Tell me that's not the same image. Oh, I need to go that way. There we go. Why do they both look very sullen? No hate to Stuart, by the way. He writes my favorite game of all time. Anyway, let's carry on.
We saw at the Chicago GT recently, Harlequins won, and they actually weren't using Light as a Satyr. They were using Twilight one. So there are other tools.
Stu Black is good looking. He's good looking AF. Yeah, I agree. Stu Black kind of hot. Stu Black looks like Ian Beale at one point. Also kind of hot.
There at their disposal.
Does that not make you think, oh, maybe I should go and change the Twilight one instead because it's being used in tournaments, or you've got to get a bit more data first?
More data first, and I think there's, what we don't want to do is start playing whack-a-mole, where you're just kind of like continually just like kind of making changes all over the place.
Yeah,
we're trying to be quite considered with the way that we kind of curate that experience, and also you want it to be that actually players can kind of keep track of, the game state, like what's true. And
that's what I said. If we do it too fast, people will get more angry. If you only act every 3 months, you can't do hard nerves. Leaving an army 2 weeks for 3 months is such a hit to someone's investment. Yeah, that's also true. That is true. It feels like it should be more live. It feels like the game should be way more live, as in like updates always happening, like every other week. Like, oh yeah, this is actually bullshit. We'll nerf that. But it's a physical game. It's like the ideal world. We get live updates all the time, like a digital game, but it's a physical game. And that's the difference, and that's what I think a lot of people kind of forget, that you can't update it too fast because people will get annoyed because they buy something and then the next day it gets nerfed. But a lot of people want to see it like an esport or play it like an esport, which is great, and I'm all for. But it's not an esport. It's not an electronic game. It's a tabletop game, and there's a lot of time investment, which that stops Games Workshop or stops a lot of companies updating things too fast. So if they update it every day, though, imagine you go on your app and your army's completely changed and you just packed your army that you packed last week and go down to the gaming store. It'd be awful. So again, it's the time investment attached to it that I think will prevent a real live digital system. Now, they could have a digital system that adds these updates automatically. It'd be very good if I went on my phone and I scrolled to a data sheet and it had all the updates, like Warhampedia, right? Like Warhampedia is really, really good because what it does is it takes all the updates and just adds them. I don't have to have a codex and an FAQ to try and work out what's what. So like a digital rule set would be good, but having live updates, like constant updates all the time, would be bad. So
if we changed everything every week based on what happened last week, like no one would be able to keep up. Do you know what I mean? It would.
That's what I said. I should have recorded this video. I just said that.
Make a really poor player experience for most players. I think there are some people who are super excited about every tournament game played ever. That's great. We love that too. But that's not the majority of people that are playing 40k.
So play once a week or maybe
or maybe once a month or maybe in bursts. And they actually get to go away to maybe a 3-day event, play a whole load of games. But then it might be a big chunk of time before they go again. And so we want to make a great experience for those players, as much as the kind of top 10% of players in the world. They'll just adapt to whatever the game is anyway.
Of course, yeah.
So it's really about trying to make sure that like average people have a great time.
It's true, chat. I am actually Stuart Black. You know. Will you just watch it all first? Do you want me to sit here and watch? Just sit here and watch the entire video and not say anything, then comment afterwards. Where's the fun in that? I'm commentating. I'm a react streamer now. Look at me. I'm reacting to every sentence and getting it right.
In match play.
So up next, we've got Mighty Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, and you've made a bit of a change to the
No, they don't talk that fast. I've just got them on 1.25 speed because they talk really slow. Okay. We're going to talk about Adeptus Astartes now. So get ready for the salt.
Secondary objective from the Nephilim book. Now you're getting a bit more victory points than you did before. Why that change? That seems quite a small change, but one of those laser focus ones you were talking about.
Yeah, so again, when we were talking last time, we were talking about trying to affect the factions that are sitting at the top, outside that Goldilocks zone, and also probably more importantly, the ones that sit near the bottom. So factions.
Goldilocks zone, it's fucking made up.
Effectively, think about what that player experience is like. You're going in to play a game, kind of feeling like you're on the back foot, and what we want to do is make it so that you feel like actually I've got a fair shot at this. So Space Marines are under where we want
let me slow it down for the important bit.
them to be in their win rates. We talked a little bit last time about some of the reasons for that. But this is quite a simple change that just means you just score more points for doing what you did last week.
Great.
So you do exactly what you did in your last game. You'll just
Still lose.
score some bonus points along the way. So it's quite a simple change that just means you score more victory points. And at the end of the day, that's how you win games.
So you expect us to make quite a change. You'll see them sort of push slowly up. They're not going to sort of jump to 60% as a result of this, but maybe they'll push to the 45. That's what you really want.
Yeah, that's what we want to do is give them a nudge up. I think all of these changes will have an effect on the game over time. But one of the things you won't see them straight away in the numbers. You've got
Doesn't help when I lose by 15. Megasaurus in chat, say what we're all thinking. This secondary does not help if I'm already losing.
we've got like a rolling data kind of period, like window that you've got games in. I think we're over 200,000 games since the Nephilim mission pack was launched. Wow. So, we'll do this change to Space Marines.
Really
a whole
slowly.
bunch of games will get played over the first weekend. But
Wouldn't you have won that game you were accused of cheating in? I would have. Again, I would have won even more.
Percentage of the games that have been played since June is quite a small number, so it's not going to suddenly move that win rate like massively. And we will capture data.
What they could have done is release a balanced latest like early, and then it would have made an effect on that data that they're analysing.
We can chat about what impact did the Dataslate have, and
Space Marines are at 90%.
Yeah, exactly. What happened? That will be a surprise.
That'll be a dream.
If Space Marines go to 90% win rate due to that one secondary change, I will eat a horse's schlong on stream. There you go. Put that one out there.
But it would be great to talk
Not legally binding.
about those kind of things
Yeah.
and kind of see about the changes that we've made. What's the impact been? Has it had the impact that we thought it would do? Have people found a clever thing that they can do with some of those things? So sometimes we'll make a change and actually someone will figure out a clever kind of interaction with another part of the game that has some surprising consequences.
It's all about puzzle solving, isn't it? Often
Yes.
when you're trying to play the game at that level, you're sort of trying to work out the best way to get the best advantage you possibly can out of the game. And
It's completely legally binding. Everyone only plays Space Marines in the next 3 tournaments. Yet, if everyone only plays Space Marines, they'll have a 50%, not a 90%. Do what you did last week with the secondary that no one was taking. It's just funny. Gonna throw games Space Marines now. A live horse, yeah, why not? Fuck it. Then that story of someone dying because they're trying to get fucked by a horse or something, and the explosion, we'll call it, was too horrific for their internal system and died.
You guys have got your sort of eyes on that all the time. Another
I'm
thing
pretty
that's
sure
happened
it's a
in
true
this balance
story.
Dataslate is the Adeptus Mechanicus. Now, you talked in the last Metawatch episode about the fact that you think you might have changed them a bit too much in previous data slates. This time we've seen a quite big change for them, but perhaps the other way. What's happened here, and how have you made that decision?
Yeah, so that's a great one because it's kind of what's new for them in the balanced data slate. Nothing. We've taken it away. It's like the Adeptus Mechanicus were doing very well in previous mission packs and in a previous meta. So the game was quite different a year ago to what it is now, and actually Adeptus Mechanicus were doing super well in that time. So we used the balanced data slate to just put some pressure on them, kind of push them down slightly so that they were more fun to play against and had
You
a
meant
less
to pick something you don't want to do. That just sounds like you have a thing.
win rate. And the game's changed. We've got new missions, we've got different factions in play. So actually, we've been tracking the Adeptus Mechanicus win rate, and it has been dropping. It's below where we want it to be. So the simplest interaction for us to do is to just take those things away. So the change for the balanced data slate for the Adeptus Mechanicus is they're not in it anymore. They're essentially using the rules in the book again.
Which is great.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously for players who there's less things to pay attention to, and that's just not codex, which is cool.
Yeah.
One of the things we talked about before was that the enriched rounds stratagem is an interesting change because previously it had been sort of changed so that it was winning on 5s to hit rather than 4s, as the codex says, and you made it 2 command points. But now you've made.
Also, why are they propping up a guy who plays on GW paid streams at the lowest possible competitive level and presenting him like he's Siegler? Because he's the host of a show? He hosts things? That's his job? Maybe he's there to ask the questions and not provide too much commentary? Maybe? See? This is what happens when I read grey names in chat. It's just dumb comments. Ugh.
Made it as it is in the book, so it's 4s to hit is a wound and 1 command point. There's less command points in the game you mentioned. So that's going to be really good for them. And also we've got the Leagues of Votan and their Judgment tokens. You know, the whole army doing 4 to hit is 4 to win. So in the enriched rounds feels like a nice change for them.
Yeah, and that's a really good example you mentioned.
At least he mentioned that bit though. At least he mentioned that bit. Like, yeah, we should probably make that stratagem really cheap because. But we should make that stratagem for Admech a little bit cheaper because this Leagues of Votan army gets the army wide for free. So, you know, bit of a yikes.
The command points, so a great example of how the game states changed around the factions is, you know, in previous mission packs, people had a lot
Still funny.
more command points. So your relative cost of a stratagem, if you're like, actually, this is a 2 command point stratagem and I've got 10 command points, well, it's a fifth of my resource. If I've only got 4, it's half my resource. So you haven't changed the cost of the thing, you've just changed the economy around it, and then that has a knock-on into the game.
One last one we've got here as well is the Necrons. They've received a small but important change here. You've taken a word away from some vehicles, you've taken a core keyword away from the character vehicles. Why that change?
So this one, to be honest, isn't really about balance. This is more about we made a change.
They're already really busted. We don't want to nerf them anymore. People are still buying Necrons.
Changing the balance data state to put core on a load of things to help Necrons. And one of the things it's led to is kind of an interaction that I think lots of players find slightly confusing. So the Silent King effectively gained the core keyword because he's a vehicle, and then there's things that you could do. You can bring back their menhirs, and I think lots of players on both sides of the table.
They did confirm you can bring back menhirs there. Did confirm it.
Found that slightly kind of also like unintuitive, and they're like, "Can I really? Is this okay? Like this doesn't feel like it's right." And it's not that it's super powerful or
So everyone, including the WTC, once again was wrong.
you know, game breaking. It just felt like actually, if it's slightly confusing for people, we should change it. So this one's more of a quality of life improvement than us being particularly worried about Necrons. The Necron win rate is sitting near the top of the bracket, but it is in the safe zone. So we're not making that change to nerf Necrons. We're just trying to tidy that up and make that interaction feel more like the players think it should work.
Is it one of
That's really interesting. That's really interesting because what he's saying there, that if you are in the 45 to 55% win bracket, to take his words slightly out of context and add words that sound better, to paraphrase, specifically to paraphrase, if you're in the 45 to 55% win bracket, we don't give a fuck. Even if Necrons have silly secondaries and they don't want to touch them at all, because they're in that win bracket, we don't care. Which is really interesting. I think that's what we should be aware of when we're talking about like armies being really good. That what essentially Stu's saying, that if they're in that win bracket, they are balanced, so we don't need to adjust them at all. We're not going to really change them. Again, they changed the Silent King as a quality of life one, which is an oversight when they added the core keyword to the vehicles, which in my opinion should have been done as soon as it came out. I think they should have removed core from the Silent King straight away. But it's really interesting. Really, really interesting. I think that'd be interesting to keep an eye on for the next few months.
There's intention things we talked about where like the rules designers never really intended those interactions to work, or is it more that you've seen it in action and now you thought maybe we shouldn't bring that back?
Yeah, so I think it works fine. Like there's not a problem with it from a rules mechanic point of view. Mechanically, it works fine. I think players have just kind of bounced off it a little bit and found it a little bit like, oh, am I cheating? Because it feels a bit like this shouldn't work like this. Not just their opponent, Necron players themselves. So there's a few things with Necrons. Like I say, Necrons are kind of sitting near the top
exactly
of
that
their bracket at the moment.
Exactly that.
So they are.
Yeah, but what he's basically saying there, that anything 56% or above is broken. Anything below 44% is not broken. Is needs fixing. Anything else is fine. So even though that Necrons have a really good win rate, have really, really good secondaries, and a really, really good sub faction, and nothing else sees play, they don't care because that faction is fine. So interesting.
Watch list. I think they are really good at scoring objectives at the moment. Their faction secondaries themselves are really good, and we're just keeping an eye on that at the moment. We don't think it needs a change yet, but we will keep an eye on where Necrons are at. The same with Sisters of Battle. Actually, both of those are doing very well. They are sitting right at the top of that kind of 55 to 56 kind of danger point. And every time we change the game, if we bring Tyranids and Harlequins down a little bit, well, does that create some space? So both of those are on our watch list at the moment. But
Creations of Bile should be on their watch list, but they haven't touched them.
we think that they're fine as they are. But watch this space.
How about at the other end of the spectrum? Are there any sort of factions or sub-factions you've got your eye on as well that might not be performing as well as they might have done? And they're not Space Marines or Adeptus Mechanicus, but anything down there?
Yeah, so a really good example is the Ashton Militarum, right?
Yeah.
So, and again, that we haven't changed those in the balanced data slate. I don't think it'd be a surprise to most people that there's a new codex coming for those guys soon.
Yeah.
So it seems like we'll just wait and let the codex do that job. So people should expect in the next balanced data slate that actually all of the things that are currently there for Ashton Militarum will go away, because I'll have a brand new book that will shake the meta up in its own way. And give.
Does that mean they're not going to change the guard balance data slate until January? Imagine the guard balance data slate. The guard stuff in the balance data slate is totally fine to work with the new army until January. I'll actually cry, unless it comes out in January, which we don't know. So
People different tools and different rules that they can use to play with their guardsmen. So
I've had a read. It's a really good book.
it's really fun. It was really good fun to work on. Yeah.
We'll talk more on that soon, of course, guys. But Stu, before we go, is there anything else about balanced data slates in the future you want to cover now? Is there any other factions you want to talk about? Is there any?
So I think
hints we've got for the future.
when's the next one? Is it January when it was scheduled, or is it 3 months from now, which is 20th of January? No. Yes, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, so a couple really. So it was the Chicago Open recently, which was a really good example of a competitive event where actually there's quite a bit of diversity of factions. So although when we look at the win rate chart, there's a lot of kind of obsession about who's at the top and who's at the bottom, and exactly who sits where within that hierarchy. But actually, out of the top 10 at Chicago, there are 5 different factions. So that we're pretty happy with that. And we got a load of feedback from attendees at the event who were all felt like they could take the army they wanted to take. Not everyone's going to the event thinking they're going to win. Like the overall event, it was nearly 250 players, something like that. So most people aren't going to win, but people felt like they could take the factions they wanted to. They didn't feel like they were being kind of like pushed in one direction or another. So that was really good, and hopefully we can talk a bit more about some of those events in the future. It's quite a good way of seeing how the bar chart plays out in the real world.
It'd be really good to sort of like go through events in the future and sort of go, this list, what do you think of this? And you go, I'm really surprised they a really clever play from this person here.
Yeah, and there were some good examples of that at Chicago, which you can watch back on the stream. So there were some great games on the stream that used some armies that maybe people would be a little bit surprised about.
Guard Generals will no doubt be pleased to see a number of data slate amendments incorporated in their incoming book. Yeah, that probably means that the orders are going to be 6-inch order still. And I don't know if they'll keep the shoot out of line of sight nerf buff thing. I don't know if they'll keep that, but we'll see.
That actually still performs really well.
That's how if you can surprise people, that might be the way to do it, because people will be preparing for the armies that are top of the tier. But
Yeah. And ultimately, if you're a good player, you'll do well. And if you're not doing so well, maybe think about how do you get the best out of the army that you've chosen. I think it's quite
Stop
easy
playing Space Marines, you fucking cocks. That's what he's saying.
to kind of look around and go, oh, I should do what that guy's doing, or I should copy that army list. And actually, a load of the good players, they just get loads and loads of games in, like hundreds of games. Yeah, exactly. And they get really good at understanding exactly how their army functions. And there's no better kind of substitute for that.
It's really good to hear you've got such a good handle and understanding on the scene out there, and you're keeping your eyes on it. It's all informed decisions you're making.
Yeah, and as we talked about last time, loads of that's data driven. So we collect loads of data, we analyse loads of data, but we also just talk to loads of people. We've got great links with the kind of tournament organising community. Get loads of feedback from those guys. We talk to lots of the top players to kind of understand why is that thing doing the thing it does. The stats point you in a direction, but they're not the answer. They're actually, there's like a flag almost that says there's a thing going on here that we then have to try and understand, right, why is that happening that way? And that enables us to do some of the interactions that we've talked about earlier, where we can go in and maybe just push over one bit of that particular kind of machine. That
Common
is that
theme
list.
of get good.
Suddenly that list has to work in a slightly different way.
We'll just play more games, you cocks.
Takes the edge off it. There are a couple of other factions that we've got our eye on as well. We talked about Sisters of Battle and Necrons. Chaos Space Marines are doing quite well at the moment. That looks a little bit to be driven by 2 sub-factions. So the Creations of Bile and Emperor's Children are both very potent. And again, their faction win rate is where we need it to be right now. So we're not making any changes. But we are, they're on notice. We're keeping an eye on those guys. It's a relatively new codex, only came out in the summer. Mm-hmm. So some of that might be people adapting to it. But we'll just keep an eye on it and see if we need to do something in the future.
Stu, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to you about that.
Hear that, though? In the 55% win rate, so we're not going to do anything right now.
Dataslate and the changes and hearing what goes on inside the studio to cause them. It's really, really cool. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you guys for watching Meta Watch as well. Join us next time and keep up with all the competitive edge in Warhammer 40,000.
There you go. That was Meta Watch. Great video. Really insightful, to be fair. Really, really insightful. Good watch. Quite interesting. An interesting, like that point that he made, again, about the win rate. Like, this is their stats as of today. Like, they are all 4 armies they've touched. Tyranids, Harlequins, Astartes Mechanicus, and then they changed Necrons because they had a weird interaction. They haven't touched anything else. You know? They've only touched Necrons because of the weird interaction. But then when you look at it, it's like 45 to 55. We don't care. Do what you want here, right? Now, Chaos Space Marine is exactly 50% win rate, but we know by looking at MetaWatch, the real MetaWatch on Reddit, by our boy JCM, one legend, we know that Creations of Bile are like smashing like a 60% win rate. You know? There we go. So Creations of Bile, season win rate 60%, Emperor's Children 57%, and then the other factions are shit. Basically, they're fine. Like Black Legion 50%, Alpha Legion 50%. You know, but these two sub factions, by being rolled into Chaos Space Marines, have a 50% win rate this season, or 5-week season. So we don't care about these two factions that are obviously quite broken, which is really wild. Really, really wild. Raven Guard to 70% win rate this weekend. Yeah, exactly. That one secondary. We're in. I'm in. It's just quite interesting, though. Again, like, yeah, we want to be in that 45 to 55% win rate, but don't we want to be in 50%? Like, to say, like, we've got this golden aim of having everyone in 45 to 55. What are they going to do if everyone's in there? They're just going to stop balancing the game and just leave everyone to it. Which is really, I think that's quite bizarre. I think they should be constantly trying to change everyone to get everyone closer to 50%. They shouldn't have a faction, a specific sub-faction at 60 and 50, or two specific from the same codex, 60 and 57% win rate. That is wild. It did say they're on the watch list, that's for sure. But, like, to not think about touching them now is interesting. I mean, again, because he said, like, if it's in the 55 to 45, we don't care. I think that's a bit weird, you know? I think that's a little bit weird. I'm surprised. I'm surprised they're not thinking about doing a little bit more earlier. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. But, yeah, like, so Chaos Space Marines are probably going to win most events for the next few months. That's my prediction. Chaos Space Marines' biggest threats have been nerfed. So we're probably going to see in the same cycle where something comes out, it's really good. The thing that was previously really good, that they have loads of data on, is going to get nerfed. So the thing that's just come out that is really good is now going to be better because there is less things to oppose it. Could it be to do with how many players are actually doing well with a faction? How, for example, how many Necron players are scoring super high and quickly? I think Necrons as a whole score super high and quickly, but they have a lower win rate. They are at 51%, but they are one of the most played factions. Let's have a look here. So Necron players this week on JCN's MetaWatch have 31 players. 25 Custodians, quite high. Obviously, Custodians had a crazy win rate this week, but 25 is the closest. Tau 26. They are the most played faction. So the same thing that they said about Space Marines last week, or the week before, when they said that Space Marines are the most played faction, so their win rate's being kept down, and that's why they shit. And that's probably the problem is new players. Is you could say the same thing for Necrons. The reason that Necrons' win rate is 50% is because there's so many people playing them. They are the most played faction most weeks. So you could say that that's the reason. Because the new players are holding the better players back in terms of win rate. Because Necrons do usually really well. They took 16% of the top spots this week as well. Top fives. 16%. The next highest was Chaos Space Marines at 13 because he won a bunch of events. So, Nids are at 36. 36 players. Oh, yeah. My apologies. Second most played. Thank you. Me being dumb. ADHD brain. So yeah, so And Chaos Space Marines were 32, so I didn't even read them all. So they were third most played faction, but they're like up there, you know what I mean? Like every other faction is like in the 20s. They're like at like low 20s. I'm just checking now to make sure I'm not being dumb. Tower at high 20s. But they're the top 3 most played most weeks, you know? So Tyranids were higher, yeah, you're right, 36. Chaos Space Marines were higher at 32. My apologies. But they're played a lot, so you could say that like Necrons are relatively well balanced, but they are winning more games than they probably should. But there's a lot of people playing them, which is controlling the win rate. So, but you've got Chaos Space Marines and Tyranids that are making me sound wrong because they have a lot of players and they have a better win rate. So does that mean that Necrons are really busted? Does it mean Tyranids are really busted? Well, the Tyranids were pretty busted. That's why they've nerfed them. Chaos Space Marines are pretty busted because they have a 60% win rate on 2 factions. So, yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Nerf a bad and you'll see the whole Chaos Space Marines faction win rate decrease. I don't think you will. I don't think you will. I think it'll be hard, but real fists are too damn high. Yeah, one person won 4 games this weekend. Yeah, bearing in mind, chat, if you don't watch my streams on a Monday, just so you know, this is this week's stats. There was 1 player, 4 wins, total games. Yeah, it's total games there. 4 out of 6 games he won. Wins, games, win rate this week. Then this is top 5 finish, and then this is win rate of the season or the last 5 weeks. 6-week win rate. So this is the one we want. This is the one we like to look at. This is like funny because you're like, oh my god, Imperial Face had a 67% win rate, but they're still 29%. That's with a spike. Rogel Dawn himself is playing. Yeah, he's just beating everyone up. He's just claiming. He's claiming that he won even though when he didn't. Ultra's at 48%. Not too bad this week. Iron Hands at 60. 3. We all went 3-2. So, and I didn't play an event this weekend. But I am playing an event soon. I'm playing an event in 2.5 weeks. Yeah, 2.5 weeks I'm playing an event, which is cool. And I'll have shock tactics. I'll have the 4VP shock tactics. I'm going to win every single game. No one will be able to claim I'm cheating with shock tactics scoring 4 points. Let's go. Loving life. 4 points, everyone. That's all we need. We just need 1 point every time we took an objective. Elite gaming now. Proper dumb. But there we go. What are your thoughts, chat? What do you reckon? What do you reckon to the balanced Dataslate? I'm going to go through chat and try and read it now. Was everyone's fixed route ready to feel like the sergeant has to be able to take power sword / fist / hammer or give them +1 strength on the charge? I don't think they'll do that just because of how the kit is struggling. He's like a snap fit. So I think the best way to fix Outriders is to make them a little bit cheaper. Or let them maybe take units of 6. That'd be pretty fun. Units of 6 Outriders? Hell yeah. Yusuf, yeah, that's it. GSC haven't had a mention in Dataslate since they started them. Exactly. That know why? Because they sit in that win rate. They don't care about them. Just may as well rub out all these names. Just waiting for them to drop. Where are GSC? I was so low down. 47% win rate. Yikers. But if you look at all the problem factions, it's Admech, which have just lost all their final nerf. And then it's all power armor up until Jesus Cults. I want to see Jesus Cults at 50% because they're a cool army. I think they're just hard to play, and they hardly ever get played as well because of that. Where are they here? G's to the Cult. 12 players. It's kind of low. Not awful. 42%. But they're averaging around 50% on JCM stats. Space Marines can't kill and die really easily. We can't use that objective unless we put everything into a single objective and hope we can steal it. Yeah, exactly. The problem is Space Marine's AP is kind of shite compared to everyone else. So they gave them Armor of Contempt. They gave them Armor of Contempt because everyone else's AP is really good and theirs isn't. But then when they're playing against Armor of Contempt units, they really, really struggle. Happy they left those Necrons secondaries alone. Said no one ever other than the 30 people play Necrons this week. The slight confusion is how the balanced teams have jobs in 2022. Why? You've had 2 dumb takes now. I'm bored now. Everyone just saying play Space Marines. I said I'd eat a horse on stream. Don't worry, when Space Marine 2 comes out, they only have to do a day 1 FAQ to add Armor of Contempt, as it wasn't part of the book when they ordered it 8 months ago. Oh, you're on about Space Marines 2.0 for 9th edition. Yeah, I don't know. I think they probably will do that, which is kind of annoying. I think they will probably keep Armor of Contempt if a new codex does come out. I don't know when they will release a new codex. I would have expected it now here. You know, I would have expected it. I would have expected a Space Marine Codex 2 around now, like September time. Which is weird. I'm surprised they haven't, because when are they going to release? Are they going to release it? Because Space Marines are always going to be the first codex in the start of edition. If they're likely to release 10th edition in June, I don't think they're going to release a Space Marine codex anytime soon. I think they might wait now. I think they got a lot of hate for doing 2 Space Marine codexes together, so it's all rumors because of that precedent. But I don't think they will. So I don't think we'll see a Space Marine 2. I think it's too late. I think if we were going to see one, it would have been September, but they released Votan instead. So you think about it, you know, this year they're going to release Guard, probably. So this year they're going to release Guard. World Eaters in January. Then they're going to release all these campaign books. And then in June, the rumor is, if our like big brains can work it out, because every edition is on a 3-year cycle, pretty much. In June, we're going to see 10th edition. So are we going to see Space Marines come out, and then 3 months later, a new edition, and then like a month after that, a new codex? I doubt it. Is it 10th going to be indexed? Like, no one knows. I doubt it. I doubt it. Any idea when the remaining Votan units get released? I have no idea, but I imagine soon. I imagine pretty soon, because they want to start selling that codex, right? But they have to release supplements. Do they have to? Maybe they just release supplements. Releasing just supplements would it be okay? Update Ultramarines and stuff. You know? I could see them releasing like Ultramarine supplements and White Scars and probably Iron Hands and nerfing them to oblivion. If they nerf Iron Hands, I'm going to have to go back to Blood Angel chat. I'm sorry. When they did indexes, wasn't Space Marines the first ones with a book? Yeah, so when they released indexes in 8th edition, Space Marines came out in September as a codex. Oh, it was a great codex, that. It was great because we had stratagems and no one else did. So good. But they can write supplements that kind of work with the 9th edition codex and then be ready for the 10th edition codex and do that. That'd be a fun way to do it. But I don't see a new codex now. I think it's too late. I do think it's too late. I'm on 8th edition. I think it's only Gar that's on 8th edition codex now, right? Is it only Guard that are on 8th edition codex? I think they're the last faction. Man, it's been so long, hasn't it? World Eaters Guard, maybe Space Marine 2. Oh, that's what I was saying. We're saying no Space Marine 2.0. But Space Marine Guard, World Eaters don't have a 9th edition codex, but they're essentially a new faction, right? So they're essentially a new faction. It's not like they're on an old codex. It's Guard that are on an old codex. World Eaters have got a White Dwarf like 2 months ago. It's shit, but they've got one. Better than nothing. Still an update. Unless 10th isn't out for next year. If 10th isn't out next year, that'd be really interesting. That'd be a bit wild. Because I said, like, as I said, the problem is that they've made a precedent of releasing a new edition every 3 years with Kill Team, 40k, Age of Sigmar, Warcry was out for 3 years before he got a new edition. Every game is under a 3-year cycle. So for 40k to set the precedent and then break it straight afterwards, perhaps, that'd be weird, but they could. If you count codex, I don't count codex supplements because they're a supplement to a codex that's 9th edition. They add to it. It's like saying I don't have a full meal. I've just got chips, but you've actually got steak with it. I've got the steak still, but I'm still eating chips rather than the salad. I don't know what that analogy was, but it was one. Do you think Blood Angels will be a launch 10th edition? I don't see why not. I don't see why not. Well, wait. They wrote the pre-9th campaign for 9. Yeah, like, those books were, like, designed to work in 9th, right? It's interesting. It's interesting. But I think that's all I can really say on the matter. I don't have anything else. I don't have anything else going on. I was supposed to be streaming Age of Sigmar tonight, but Louis busy. I was going to stream some painting, but now I've streamed during the day, so I might not bother. The Psychic Awakening books were out nearly a year before 9th. The 9th books like that haven't been released yet. I don't think they weren't out in nearly a year, were they? Because the Pariah update, which was the last Psychic Awakening, came out, and then 9th edition came out like it got announced like 3 weeks later. Psychic Awakening started in September, the year before the new edition, and in September, Games Workshop announced boarded actions. You know, October 2019, yeah, and they released 9th edition in 2020, didn't they? Yeah, They started it, but then it finished in, like, May. So if they start boarding actions now, then finishing it in, I don't know, May? Right? Yeah, nearly a year to release all 9 of them. I mean, that's a little bit different saying that they were out for a year. The first one was, but the last one was out for, like, 2 weeks. Anything huge in the Dataslate? Space Marines get 1 extra VP. That's about it. Also, Nid's got nerfed. Fuck's sake, Magoo. This is the only change you need to worry about. This is it. This is all we need to worry about. 1 VP also. Fuck Mikey. Well done, Magoo. Well done. GW, release balanced data slate. Players, our expectations for you were low, but holy fuck. Oh, gorgeous. Gorgeous tweetable memes. We love to see it. A beautiful meme that can be tweeted within the next 3 seconds. That's a good one. That is a good one. There we go. Go like my tweet, please. That's funny. Chaos players after the data sheet drops. Fucking brilliant. Yeah, look, watching a Mikey stream. Watching Mikey stream. Hey, JCM, what a legend. Thank you much for the 10 bucks, man. Really appreciate it. That's so kind of you.
Huge letdown. Top 5 armies won't change till the full love release and guard book. Did they delay it because they talked themselves out of more changes?
I think so. I think... Thank you so much for the 10. I think they waited for the balanced data slate because of the Votan thing like a week ago. Or 2 weeks ago. Top 5 armies won't change till the full Votan release and guard book. Did they delay it because they talked themselves out of more changes? Yeah, I think they kind of fucking put themselves in a corner, right? By saying, oh yeah, we're like, here's the Votan, it's really broken, so we're going to have to apologize for it. They could have released the Votan change in this data slate. That would piss people off. So they did it earlier, but now they're like, oh, we can't make too many changes because we'll piss more people off because we keep making changes. So, but yeah, like Votan are still really strong. Guard are probably going to be really, really strong. And they're going to be like the dominating faction until the balanced data slate. And then I think Creations of Bile will still be really good as well. Like, they're all still going to be like up there. And then when the new balanced data set comes out in like January with new points changes, Chaos Space Marines will get nerfed, and we'll just see Votan and Gar being really good because there's not enough data to change them yet. So I agree, Damien. I agree. No, they did it. It's too heavy-fisted, so or heavy-handed. So wow, the fortune cookies here really are more accurate. Chaos will never be nerfed. They pissed Chaos players off so much that they just don't dare nerf them because they know they will be suicidal afterwards. Like, remember that video? One of my most viewed videos is me saying that Games Workshop don't give a fuck about Chaos Space Marines. 60,000 views. Me and Jay moaning. Remember this? Say that Chaos Space Marines fucking suck. Oh, I have my Team English shirt there. My terrible hair. But what's all behind me? Why is this such a mess? Oh, last week. Okay. Great beard, though. But, yeah, like, so me and Jay last year did a video saying that, like, they hate Chaos Space Marines because they're just shit. And they won't do anything with them. And now we're at a point where they're so strong, but Games Workshop do not dare nerf them because they might upset the Chaos Space Marine players. That's where we're at. Now they're doing the same thing for Space Marines. Dark Magpie, that's a fucking video idea. They're done with Space Marines. Same thumbnail, different codex. Dark Magpie, thank you very much. I'll be eating well for Christmas. Double turkey for me, thank you. Games Workshop. Games Workshop when Space Marine players aren't taking shock tactics. It's an okay secondary, but it's not that great. It's a good meme, though. It's a good meme. Players asking for flavors to be nerfed. Oh, no. Okay, that shit, I mean, yeah, very low quality. Very good. DJ Trump. Space Marine Land Raiders. Space Marine Land Raiders. If they change it to turn instead of battle round, it would be good, but it's just too much of a deniable rate. What are we talking about? Are you talking about Shock Tactics, because it is end of turn, bud. Shock Tactics is end of turn. Balanced Dataslate writers, players wanting chaos nerfs. Very good. Oh, mate. What are you doing? What are you doing? Dragging out Picard for a meme? Bro, it's 2022. Liz Truss has resigned. The Balanced Dataslate is out. You've decided to bring out Picard. Fuck me. GW rules writers. Players. He did change it definitely, yeah, Mike. Legends never die. Very good. Very good memes. Well done. Well done. Well done. Very, very good memes, Magoo. Carried to the end of the stream there. But that's it. That's all I got for you. It's been a fun stream. Yeah, really good numbers. Got 300 people watching all at the same time, which is really cool. I could sit here and drag it out and keep going over the same points, but I don't really have anything else to add. So I'm going to leave this up as a video so you can go back and watch it later if you want. That was fun. That was fun. It was good. There it was. The Balanced Dataslate. So thanks for watching, everyone. Love you all. And, I don't know. I guess I'll see you. I might paint tonight and talk about it. Final point, get better Space Marine players. That is a great point, Burgosaurus. That is a great point. Been a stressful week for the Games Workshop rules writer. Had to quit a second job as PM because of it. What tournament are you going to? I'm going to one in Sheffield next week. Or in a couple of weeks. Anyway, chat. Keep it easy. Keep it real. Check out the schedule. I'll be live. I'll probably be live again later painting. But don't forget, I'm live on Saturday as well playing the Dark Souls board game. I'm actually going to be instead of this, Louis left us. Can I edit this? Can I draw? Let me draw. Oh, it's not a paintbrush. Louis left us. He's too busy for us. So I'm going to be painting the last miniature. I've actually painted everything but one. So I'm going to go. And I'll see you later. I love you all. And bye-bye for now. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Bye. Love you all. Bye. Bye. Bye.